Men or women that have had with a man with an abnormally large or abnormally small What was the experience like? A girl once told me that a limo is impressive but it's not that fun to drive and is especially hard to park. A regular sedan might be less impressive but much more fun to drive and you can park almost anywhere. So I asked, how do you feel about hatchbacks? Above average can be absolutely incredible, especially in certain positions. That is until your cervix gets hit. I have my donut. It's a rubber ring, not a ring the size of a donut that goes around my at the base and acts as a bumper so I can go to town without the cervix bashing. That is actually genius. You are a considerate big man. Had with a big guy. It was simultaneously the most boring and painful of my life. He wasn't a big dude, so the blood it took to power this thing left him dizzy. He pretty much just laid there while I tried to figure out how to fit this terrifying doom cannon into my body. I gave up after about 10 minutes. Then he cried. Also had with a small guy. I could only feel it in certain positions, and he was very sensitive about his performance, so he didn't take suggestions well. We didn't last long. Had to tell him to stop about halfway in. Not fun when terrified of injury. We were in our 20s. He was a smoking hot virgin. He met a woman who could enjoy all he had to offer 26 centimeters not long after our attempt, and Facebook says they're still together over a decade later. I don't even know if what we did qualifies as He looked at me with a terrified, "Are you okay?" look on his face and was met with my freaked out expression. Fun to look at, scary to experience. During it felt great, I guess because of the adrenaline, but afterwards I was doubled over in pain. It felt like my cervix had been drop-kicked by Chuck Norris. Had a couple hookups with a guy whose was about the same size as my index finger. We only did but holy crap, it was like someone trying to make me throw up by sticking their finger down my throat. I've never been one to care about size. My ex was on the way smaller side, but that wasn't his downfall. He refused to listen to what I wanted and thought he was a god. Any suggestions about what I wanted were met with anger and arrogance. My fiancé now is one of the biggest I've ever been with. We have to be super careful in certain positions or he'll hurt me. Luckily for me, he listens to what I like and takes it easy on me. My husband was small. It never mattered. It was great and made BJ's much easier. He passed years back. I began dating another guy and he was long and decently thick. I could hardly walk. He had to be careful for a long time because it was painful. I got used to it. He wasn't as attentive as my husband, so the wasn't as good overall. BJ's were exhausting and I gagged a lot even with taking precautions with my hand. Overall, I enjoyed both extremes. I loved them and that's what mattered mostly. He used his size as a reason to not really try in bed. He never gave me opportunity to warm up. And even though I thoroughly enjoy super rough he just thought ramming it into me over and over was the way to go. Lack of warm-up and him just thrusting hard like no tomorrow left me sore and angry. Not the good kind of sore, either. My cervix hated me when I was with him. I've found that the larger a guy is, the less work he thinks he has to put in. But I've also had the reverse happen where a guy with a small was trying way too hard to make up for what he was lacking his words. The dude would not stop touching my clit or tits. And usually that's not a bad thing. But damn dude, too much. I lost my virginity to someone with a 9-incher. He was the epitome of having a big doesn't make you good in bed. Didn't try to turn me on. Didn't do anything but jackhammer until he finished. Couldn't even find my clit the one time he ever tried. All I really remember about that is the overwhelming pain of having him punch my cervix with his My shortest ex was actually the one with the largest I don't know an exact side, but he had a very wide girth and was still decently long. We would have to use the vibrator on me first, because it was thinner, in order to stretch me out enough that he would fit without hurting me. At the time, I thought it was really good but now I'm with the guy that I know I'm going to spend my life with, and turns out the big guy wasn't as good as I thought. Now boyfriend is still decently long as well, so I'm a happy girl. You should tell your current guy that with him is much better because his is smaller than your ex's. I'm kidding. Don't do this. Had an experience with a guy with a small weird one. Imagine a small pill bottle with a golf ball on top. This was his equipment. Short and thin with a monster head. It wasn't bad, but when he pulled out it made a sound, not unlike uncorking a bottle of champagne. A coworker of mine was talking about sleeping with a guy who was almost the size of her Comcast television remote. For visual reference, this is appropriate because Comcast is definitely a big prick. Anyway, she said she tentatively touched it like Indiana Jones with the golden idol, and jiggled it about experimentally. It made a THP 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 sound like a water balloon, and it was so visually striking and distinctive that she wouldn't have been surprised if it had talked or sang a song. In the end, she incredulously asked him what he was planning on doing with that and had to frankly tell him she didn't think that was going to happen. Been with both. Large. Like being repeatedly gut-punched because the dude had no idea what he was doing. I'm pretty sure childbirth was less traumatic on my cervix. I am not a size queen. Small. Actually really good. He had the plus of being relatively girthy, and he knew how to work with what he had. It wasn't deep penetration, but that didn't detract from anything. The angle he got was great for more clitoral stimulation, which was great. Is everyone measuring from the same spot? From the arm to a couple inches in front? Is there another way to measure it? The butt cheek to the tip. Dude had a literal cone-shaped too big at the base and too small at the tip. The experience looking back was the worst. I was young and naive, like trying to have with an upside-down ice cream cone. I have never had this conversation before. I've had with a guy with that shape too. I don't remember the so much as the shape. This is over 10 years ago, mind you. He was on the larger side. 7-ish I would say, but the shape isn't something I've seen again. Even in abnormally large fellow dislodged my IUD, was temporarily crippled by the pain and had to go to the doctors to make sure it hadn't perforated my uterus. Wasn't exactly what I'd describe as fun. I have had both. The large one never learned that a majority of the population do not like getting harpooned like a dolphin within a few seconds. Like go slow and use lube if you have to. Lube isn't just for butt stuff. I can take a decent amount, but when they hit my cervix so I have to tap out for a bit. I'm a big woman, so the small one I felt only grinding against my clit. Didn't feel the penetration, but he was persistent and lasted a lot longer than the bigger guys. Also he gave me more attention and pulled out toys and all kinds of fun stuff, whereas the bigger guys were all about instant gratification and skipped foreplay. In the end, size doesn't matter to me. I was with a guy who wasn't very well endowed. We were fooling around and he asked for a hand job. I went to put my hand around and found that my hand was larger than his fully erect Similar to many others, couldn't feel it when he put it in either. Oh geez. Reminds me of the first time I fooled around with a now ex. We were getting hot and heavy on the couch. Lights off. And I'm feeling around for his but can't find it. My hand searching around like a cartoon character searching for the dropped glasses. And the 1 or 2 times he topped me, I really didn't feel much. It wasn't bad. I just didn't feel anything. Was with a smaller dude. Like others here have said, felt nothing. Pretty sure most of the action was him grinding against my inner thigh. We were young, and didn't really know what else to do outside of just basics. Nowadays I would ask for more attention because regardless of size, you can still have good times if there's other foreplay and fulfillment involved. And I would assume most men go crazy at the thought of a woman giving them more info about what they want, so the good times can roll for both parties. He was a good dude and an attentive boyfriend. We broke up due to being long distance. I don't regret it, and I'd never make fun of a guy for the size of their schlong. It's not the that makes the man. It's the willingness to be an open and loving partner. It was really small, bordering on micro. So trust me when I say I mean what I said above. In all other aspects the guy was funny, caring, and great to be around. We stayed together for a good while, and did only break up because there were more than a few states between us. And when you're that young you don't really have the money to travel very often. This was a very, very long time ago as well. I'm talking like 14 to 15 years. And to the rest who say I'm probably lying and it would be boring to not have full-on that's your opinion and experience. Mine is different. You're welcome to your beliefs, but don't try to insert them directly into my head. The only one in my head is me, as far as I know, and the only one who has had my particular life experiences is me, as well, which is how I came to be who I am at this point. People always act like there's some kind of shame in using toys and stuff during regular sex. There's not. Adult stores wouldn't stay open if it wasn't fun to use them. Just saying. I was with a dude who had a peen like a large deodorant can. One night we were doing the dance of the beast with two backs, and he must have bashed my cervix one time too many and I began to faint. I realized what was happening and tried to make it to the bathroom, not sure why. I thought I'd been pretty speedy, but turns out he had to shepherd me along the 5 meters corridor because I was all over the place, literally bouncing off the walls. I didn't even know he'd followed me. My roommate came out of her room to find me completely naked, passed out on the toilet with my panicking boyfriend trying to bring me round. At about 1 a.m., I eventually came round and kept frantically asking him to bring me my slip. He didn't understand. Bring me my slip. My slip. I was frantically trying to cover my bits and bobs with my hands to maintain some level of dignity. I wanted my nightie and had never called it my slip in all my days. I was so confused.